All right, guys, on today's episode, we're going to dive into some trending topics out in our world, and we're going to dive into short-term rental topics. Trending topics are Biden's auto signature, some recent stories about being stranded at sea or in space. What would you rather do? Lamborghini's brand new Stroller, Delta's crazy new airplanes, and then we're going to dive straight into the short-term rental world, talk about the grueling setup process, tackling an extensive remodel. We're going to talk about which one's better, Airbnb or VRBO today. And we're also going to talk about tips on how to get more bookings and fill your calendar. So stay tuned to the end so you don't miss anything, and make sure you subscribe or follow us on whatever platform you're watching or listening. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Moore, and we're back with our Whiskey Wednesday episodes with Mr. Dave Savolich. What's up, brother?
Hey, buddy.
Getting the week started off right.
Yep, here we are.
All right,
let's get it.
We'll talk about it. You guys know that we do shows within the show on Wednesdays. We have Whiskey Wednesday, which is what we're recording today. Dave and I are going to talk about some hot topics in the world out there. We're going to answer a number of different questions that you guys send in. We have a whole bunch of questions on the agenda today covering all kinds of topics. And so as a reminder, if you guys do have questions, send them in to us at support@vodacy.com or put them in the comments on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, and we'll make sure that we get those in an upcoming episode. And so, what's so funny?
I'm just looking at your biceps, bro. It's freaking, dude, that shirt's awesome, dude. I see the U.S. flag over here.
US
I see
flag,
some, and then
guns.
I see two guns, bro. Like I'm talking guns, not the guns on your shirt, like the guns that are
Stupid.
underneath the shirt.
Do we need to start over? We need to start over on this episode.
No, this is perfect.
All right, this is perfect. I'll look over at Dave's laughing at me.
I'm gonna wear a t-shirt next time too.
Yeah, those of you that are listening, you can go on YouTube and watch and see the t-shirt I've got on today. So that Dave thought was so funny. It's just a black t-shirt, just so you know.
March Madness, buddy.
March Madness. Let's
big day yesterday. The
Selection Sunday.
Yeah. So okay, so if you were picking one team, who do you think should have deserved the number one overall seat?
Houston.
Does my mic's okay, right? Yeah, it seems a little off, but okay.
Houston. I think their defense is solid.
Yeah.
Whew. And I'm a fan of the gritty teams.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're not as exciting to watch on offense, but man, watching those guys on defense, I mean, every team that they go up against has their worst shooting night. They can't score.
Yeah.
And I mean they're tough. I think that they're not as exciting as some of the teams in the SEC. Like I don't disagree with the number one overall seed.
Auburn, then Duke, then Houston. So I think that's the three.
And I would say I think Florida being the fourth is like that. I think out of the number ones, I think they got the short end of the stick. I think they're better than Duke. Yeah. Like I think that them, and they just won the SEC, toughest conference in the nation by far this year. So, I mean, to me, they should probably get the overall number one.
Sam and I were talking about the teams yesterday morning before the Selection Sunday, and we thought, okay, we went through the SEC and we thought, okay, man, they'll probably get 8 or 9 maybe in there, because then they got 14. That's unbelievable. That just shows you how good that league is. As much as you may love
no
Big 12,
conference has ever gotten 14. They were going to set a record. I think the highest was 12. All season long, they were saying 13 teams were getting in. They ended up with 14.
14 teams.
14 teams in the
two
tournament.
teams that didn't get in. How about those guys?
Yeah, you're you don't want to be those two teams. LSU and who else? I don't know who else.
I can't remember who the last one was, but LSU. So, but it's going to be fun. You and I obviously played college basketball. We love March Madness. We love the competitiveness, the spirit, the fans. If you watched the Selection Sunday yesterday, I loved seeing the gyms of the teams that got in.
Right.
I mean, it was like there was a dang game there.
Right.
They were so excited.
It was fun.
What passion do you have in any other sporting event than March Madness? Maybe the Olympics, maybe a couple other things, but
there's individual games that are exciting and people get worked up for, but like the whole tournament, March Madness is really second to none.
It's awesome.
It's pretty fun. So we'll be talking about that probably most Whiskey Wednesdays, you guys. So
it's interesting too. I think this year, in the last couple of years, over years past, it becomes harder and harder to pick teams, because a 10, 12, 11, 9, like those teams are just as good, almost as good as 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, it's hard to pick.
Yeah, there's a lot of parity. Always has been. That's why there's so many upsets, why there's so many close games. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, which would you rather have, a space or sea? And here's the dilemma. There was a 60-year-old man that was lost at sea for 94 days. Okay. Or astronauts lost in space, finally coming home after 9 months. What would you rather be? Would you rather be stuck in the water for 94 days, or would you rather be stuck in space?
That's a tough one.
I know.
I'd be scared to death on both. I would say if I knew I was getting off in 94 days, I'm taking the sea at 94 days. But when you're out there, you have no communication. You're just floating around.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where you're at. And I mean, that's a long 94 days, at least in the space station. They're up there, they're communicating, they're saying, hey, we're going to come.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
We got to fix this, whatever. We're going to come get you. It would suck to be up there for 94 days, but I think I'd rather have that with the communication than zero communication floating around the ocean.
I think so too. I think you'd be scared out of your mind every day on the ocean. That'd be so eerie. I think in space, even though it's 3 times as long, at least you're going to have times where you're just chilling out, you're watching a movie, you're exercising, you're like, you know what I mean? You have time where you're not.
You've got resources.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I'd take the space.
Me too. I'm taking space. Plus, I've never been to space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
the first time might be fun.
The views might be better from space. I'd probably take space.
Yeah. Space.
And if I was going there, I might fly on the new plane that Delta's coming out with.
Yeah. It looks like a spaceship, right? That thing's sweet.
That thing is awesome.
Yeah. Delta's new plane. What's it called? Let's see. 250 travelers. It's called, they're partnering with Jet Zero. Could take flight as early as 2027. So it's still a couple years out. There's private planes that are smaller that look like that.
So they're saying that the cool thing about it holds 250 some people, but it's a lot quieter and quicker because of the way that the engines are mounted on top of the back. So, I mean, it looks freaking cool. We're Delta guys, so we'll probably be the first guys to fly on that baby. Yeah,
they'll put one. I mean, if they bring a couple, they'll put one in Salt Lake, I'm sure.
If they call us and say, you want to be the first guy to fly on it, would you?
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that chance.
Talking about, the latest and greatest, we go from planes to a stroller. We're not having any kids anytime soon, I hope.
You guys are anytime soon. Well, maybe grandkids. I mean, we're past the kid.
I hope so. You never know.
Yeah.
Lamborghini's just come out with a stroller, a baby stroller, for about $5,000. $5,500. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'd probably buy it. Would you?
No,
dude. Listen. No. My kids are going to drive.
That looks just like a regular stroller that I could get at Babies R Us.
My kids are riding in the best. If they say that's the best, just think of the ride, dude.
It's exactly the same as the rest of them. Look at that thing. It's a plastic stroller.
It is.
For $5,500.
I'm not even sure. I don't know why.
High glass polycarbonate bassinet. I mean, it's pretty sweet.
Well, it probably won't break easy.
Yeah, well, if you're breaking a stroller, the kid's in trouble anyway.
But honestly, think of that.
So be careful with your strollers.
But think of this: if you're buying that, you have more money than you know what to do with, or it's all about just the perception, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like buying a handbag. Exactly. Probably it's a fashion accessory.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
whatever. I'm not.
It's interesting though. I'm not sure why Lamborghini would want to come out with.
Because people are gonna pay them $5,500 for a stroller.
Jeez,
yeah. They're gonna pay it. People will pay for it. It's branding. It's a brand thing.
Can you imagine the anxiety when you're getting on a plane and you're putting that thing to?
Oh yeah, check it when they're like check it at the gate and then you just throw it down the stairs and somebody catches it with a yellow tag on it.
You hope you get it back. And
yeah.
It's like this. Like
hopefully you're not. Hopefully when you have that, you just are. You roll up to your charter. Your charter jet and they load it nicely.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think it's not that much, but it's not like it's not like you got to take a second mortgage out, but it's a ridiculous amount for a stroller.
It is. Yeah, Jake's in the back. Jake's about to have kids here in a few years with and
he's gonna put that on he's gonna put that on his regry.
Exactly.
He's gonna send us his link to his registry and it's gonna have the Lamborghini stroller.
He'll have 2 links, one to Amazon and one to Lamborghini.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Biden's pardons are causing quite a stir. And I guess, so I don't know much about this topic, but I guess he has the auto signature that's kind of signed in most of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which in the business world, I mean, we do a lot of electronic signatures and DocuSigns and all that stuff. So, I mean, what is your thoughts? Is it legit or not?
Yeah. I mean, from what I hear, I mean, yeah, but we're in the real estate world, business world, when you take out, there's certain things that have to have wet signatures, which means a real signature with a pen, right? Or electronic auto type signatures are okay in certain situations. From what I hear, the presidency is the same. Like a lot of presidents use auto pens for different things. A lot of administrative. I don't know why I can't say that word. Administrative, yeah, like tasks and signs, and like they have to sign a whole bunch of different things. But apparently, they're saying that you can't use it for pardons, and you shouldn't. You're not. There are certain things you can't that have to have a real signature and an authorized signature, and I think that's what they're arguing and looking up. I guess the jury's out, right? We'll see what they come up with. I don't know all the real rules or against it. I mean, I know that it sounds like all of them use an auto pen for certain things.
Yeah.
And so, is there a clear line of what you can and can't use it for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking there are certain things you probably should sign physically.
Yeah, should, but should doesn't mean you have to.
No, but you think like if we're going to a notary and stuff, we're they're gonna. Most important document. This seems like a pretty important document. You think you would sign versus Biden saying, "Hey, just throw the old auto signature on it." You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. But by the way, if you would think that would cause a question at some point. So you would say, "Hey, listen, if I'm really going to sign these pardons, I probably ought to sign them."
Right. Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I'm not a fan of 95% of the shit that Biden did. So I'm not defending this by any stretch. I think that the pardons were ridiculous in the first place.
Yeah.
And if they're invalid pardons, I'd probably be pretty happy personally because I would like to see some accountability on some of the things that happen. But whether it is or isn't, I don't know. I don't know the legalities of it, of whether they can or can't. I would like to think that if you're signing pardons and stuff, you're gonna take your time and think about that and actually sign them.
Yeah.
Not just have like I don't think he was running the government the last couple of years of his presidency. Yeah. So, I think the auto pen was used in a lot of places it probably shouldn't have been. Yeah. But I don't know if that's illegal or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into some short-term rental market questions. First, I guess let's start off with how important is it to be on every booking website? The OTAs, Airbnb, VRBO. What's your thoughts on that? Is it important for somebody to be on all of them, or one of them, or what?
I think it's important to launch on all of them, and so I disagree with a lot of people on this, and it's worked out really well for us is eventually launching on all of them and then seeing where you get the most traction and then going all in on the one that you get the most traction on. Yeah. And, and even AirDNA did an article recently saying you should be on all the different platforms. I read the article. The data to me in the article, the headline looked like, I need to be on all the platforms. The data that they were citing in the article, just like most articles, right? The headline is totally different if you actually read the article. Mm-hmm. It was different. The data wasn't supporting that. I am a huge believer. We've seen it firsthand on many, many properties that you are so much better off optimizing on whatever platform you decide to go all in on because the algorithm is going to treat you more favorably. You're going to be able to optimize better. They're going to get that platform is going to make more money off of you, which is what they're after. Right. So they're going to put you up higher in the rankings. You have a better chance to do better. The reason for this is, and I've talked about this before, the whole reason is we have 30 days a month that we have available to sell to somebody, right? We have very, very limited inventory. And so in most markets, the average booking lead time is less than 60 days. Most markets throughout the year is around 30 to 40 days is the average lead time. And so in the eyes of the consumer, in the eyes of the booking platform, you really only have 30 to 45 days of inventory that you can sell. If you try to spread that out over all these different platforms, and on one platform you book a weekend here, another platform another weekend here, another platform you book a 5-day stay in the middle of the week. Well, everybody's getting a little piece of that business, but nobody's getting enough to make them excited. And so those platforms are going to say, okay, well, Dave, you know, I booked a week. You booked a weekend on my platform, but Shawn booked all 4 weekends on my platform.
Right.
And so, the next month, the same thing happened. You booked, 6 or 7 days, but Shawn booked 25 days.
Right.
But you might have booked 25 days
just
in your portfolio, and you're like, well, what does that matter, Shawn? I'm still making the same amount of money.
Right.
Well, it matters long term because over a period of time, that platform is going to say, if all things are equal between Shawn and Dave's property, and Shawn keeps booking 25 days on this platform, and Dave's booking 7 or 8 days because he spreads his business out somewhere else, and the rest of those days are blocked on our calendar, I'm going to favor Shawn's property to my customer base because I make more money with Shawn.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's why I am a big proponent of saying, that I lean all in. Now, when you launch, you may say, I don't know which one's going to be the best for me. I don't know if VRBO is going to be better. I don't know if Airbnb is going to be better. And so launch on both. We're on both or multiple platforms all the time. What we do, though, is once we start to gain traction, we go all in and we optimize for one. And we really focus on one. And we really try not to get bookings. I wouldn't say we don't try not to, but we want to get our bookings on one so that when the question arises, and we're getting judged against another property, which we do every single day on those OTAs, and they say, who am I going to show to more customers? Who am I going to give more exposure to? Who am I going to give better rankings to? It's going to be me if I am booking 20 days a month and you're booking 7 days a month. Yeah. Even though we might both have nice properties because you're booking another 14 days on another platform.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and it's that's a contrarian viewpoint for sure within this industry. I don't know anybody else that says that like we do. And so test it for yourself. Yeah. I'm just not a believer of following the pack either. Yeah. Like we have always kind of forged our own way in this industry. And there are certain things that we do, like 2-night stays. I do 2-night stays throughout our portfolios, throughout our properties. Similar reasons. We test it, it works, and it works for us. It works for a lot of our members. And we optimize these properties and maximize our revenue by making some of these decisions that are maybe a little different than the norm.
Yeah. All right, next question. Should your Airbnb profile picture be a woman? The argument is men and women would rather book with a woman. So when you're on your site on the Airbnb and it says hosted by, and you see a woman picture on there, are you more likely to book seeing that than a man? That's kind of interesting. I mean, I always look at those and say, does this look like a nice person?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing is true in marketing and in sales is women they have a way higher trust score right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. So consumers trust women way more than they trust men, just right on the surface. Right. And so maybe we've never tested it. I've never heard this as far as like a test when it comes to like marketing 101. And you think about that and you say, okay, are women, they have and I don't know, I'm making up the word trust score, but just to make the point. I
thought that was like, it's
really,
that really is the thing. I think it is actually.
I know that the thing is, it's true that consumers trust women more than they trust men right out of the gate, right? And so if you, maybe there's something to that, right? I know in advertising, a lot of our, when we're running marketing campaigns and everything else, they always suggest that you have women on, doing certain ads, right? Because they're going to be, come across as more trustworthy. And a consumer, when you're booking a property, you want to trust the person you're booking from. So there might be something to that. Actually, we've never actually tested it or run it, but knowing that in marketing and then knowing, the question that just arises, it makes me think, might be something to it that we might go, think about putting the wife on the profile versus.
What if it said hosted by Bob and there's this cute gal on there?
Well,
now you're like,
now you're in trouble.
It's throwing you off. Now you're really like, wait a second.
Hey, I made the mistake one time.
Picture, but I don't trust the name.
Yeah, I made the mistake one time. I had Michael book on my calendar, and it was for a strategy session. Somebody wanted to talk about vacation rentals, and I call up and I say, "Hey, is Michael there?" And a woman answered the phone and said, "This is Michael." And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Is it Michelle?" He said, "No, it's Michael." And I was like,
but that's not your fault, bro.
Well,
that's you shouldn't. No, that's not right. You shouldn't call yourself Michael if you really should be called Michelle.
Well, she didn't name herself. Maybe.
Well, you should change your name.
Bob. What if you have a cute blonde that's named Bob? You never know. I think it can be confusing because I've got caught.
Bobby, and they called it Bob.
There you go. Hey, just don't make the mistake that I did and like immediately be like, I kind of laughed and was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Is it Michelle? Because I thought maybe I read her wrong.
Yeah, that's an honest mistake. And then she hung up on you.
No, she was actually really nice. We had a good chat after that. But I was a little embarrassed. I kind of felt bad, because it's the boy named Sue. Remember Johnny Cash?
Yeah. All right, stock market's hit a little bit of a bump here the last few weeks, which I think is even more of an attribute to why you should invest in short-term rentals or real estate in a whole, right?
Yeah, I like tangible assets like short-term rentals. It's not as susceptible to the market fluctuations that you will find in stocks, right? Because it's hard to offload real estate, and so you can't just have a big sell-off of real estate overnight, right? And so because of that, you don't have these big drops overnight, right. And so. When it comes to these types of fluctuations, when you are in the stock market and all that stuff, they always say, you've got to know that those things are going to happen. Nobody complains when they jump up 20% in a weekend. Right. But when you drop 20% in a weekend or a week or whatever, whatever happens, like what's going on right now, and the markets are a little bit uncertain, things are happening. Yeah. Tangible assets just don't fluctuate like that, especially with real estate, because it's hard to sell them fast, right? And so it takes time to sell them, and so they don't jump up overnight either. They're going to be they're just going to be a more steady asset that are tangible, that have multiple uses beyond just sitting in a portfolio on a value.
Yeah, good. All right, next, advice for people who are getting close to the setup phase. A lot of people are saying, man, that setup phase is a lot harder than I originally thought. There's a lot of hard, scenarios in the short-term rental game, if you will, from acquisition to the setup to management to marketing. There's a lot of stuff, but that setup phase, a lot of people are like, wow, I didn't realize how hard that was. And I think having them understand going into it with their eyes wide open is super important, because that is one of the toughest parts of setting up your short-term rental, right?
And we say that. It is probably the hardest single phase that you're in for a short period of time. Yeah. But it's a very hard phase if you do it right. That's a big if, because this is the phase that actually sets you apart from the competition. Right. And this is the phase that's going to really determine whether you make money in the next 5 to 7 years with this asset. And it's going to, you're making decisions during this phase. And the reason that most people don't make a lot of money in this game is because they don't take this phase serious. And it is hard, and it is time consuming, and it does take a lot of planning, and it is frustrating. And it's just, there's just no other way to say it other than doing it correctly. Though the rewards are so worth it, because you put yourself in a position to operate at the top of these markets. I heard PBD was talking about, and he was talking to his son and giving him advice, and I thought it was brilliant advice for anybody to hear. He said, the more you want to be elite, the harder the advice, the harder the path is going to be. And he said, there's a lot of people out there that can teach you how to be in the top 20% of a market. And that's where most of the money's made in any market. But he said that to be in the top 20% really is not that hard. It's understanding, and this applies, and when he was talking, I was like, this applies 100% to our short-term rental game. To be in the top 20%, it's dialing in the fundamentals, at a level that you're executing them, and not just going completely off the rails, right? You're saying, okay, I'm gonna have a nice property, a nice area. I'm gonna set it up nicely for a unique or for a good experience for a guest, and I'm gonna understand marketing, how to optimize on the OTAs. That's gonna get you in the top 20%. It's where 95% of the advice lies, right? Most of the people out there talking about this, most of the people out there training on this, they're gonna give you the advice to be in the top 20%. Then you have the people that are going to say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to take you to the next level, and I'm going to put you in the top 10% of the market." And it's going to be harder, and there's more details, right? The fundamentals are still there, but you're dialing in a lot more details, and you're navigating a road that is, it's getting harder and less traveled, and less people are going to do it because of the effort involved. And then you've got the people that are going to say, "Hey, listen, we're going to get you in the top 1%, right? We've got our 1% club." And the things that we do at Vodacy, we're not attractive to that many people. We're attractive to the people that want to be at the very top of the market, because what we offer them and what we teach them is very difficult. And so when it comes to the setup phase, the way we say the setup phase is, it's not easy, because our goal is not to operate in the top 20% of a market. Our goal is to operate at the very top of a market. Right. And so when I talk about this stuff, and we have some of our members that bring that up and say, "Man, it's harder than I thought it was." Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, no apologies. I'm not. That is what it takes to succeed at a high level in any game. But he broke that down and said, and the issue is trying to find somebody that will actually tell you that, because that's a hard sell in the very beginning, right? It's hard to tell somebody, "Man, you're diving into this game. It's going to be grueling. It's going to be hard. There's going to be times you want to quit. Many times you want to give up." And you're saying, "Why did I do this?" Instead of just taking my 401k and throwing it in the stock market, because that's an easier path, right? But the path doesn't lead you to the same destination. That's what people don't realize. The destination we're trying to reach is the top of these markets, the top 1% of these markets. And it is hard. And most people are not going to tell you as hard that it is going to be hard. You mentioned, our goal is to have people walk into this game with their eyes wide open. That's what we want people to do. And I want people to say, "No, I'm not ready for that climb. No, I don't want to do that. I'm okay with the 20%. That they should go talk to everybody else." But when we're teaching them how to do this stuff, it's because our goal is only to be at the top of these markets, only to operate in the top 1% of the market, because that's where the real money's made.
Well, and arguably one of the most rewarding parts of the journey is getting it set up and seeing the fruits of your labor after you've put all that. I mean, it's amazing setting this experience and seeing the before and after, and you're like, "Wow, that's unbelievable."
100%. Yeah.
All right. So, this was a question that came into our support line.
Okay.
And by the way, appreciate you sending that in. So if you have any questions or want anything kind of answered or discussed on the podcast, support@vodacy.com. Please send it in to us, and we'll address it and give you our insights and thoughts on it. But this was a question that came in. If you have a property, let's say it's a 3,500 square foot property, and you want to do quite an extensive remodel, and you want to, at the end of the day, it's going to be more like a 4,500 or a 4,800 square foot property. So you're going to do quite a bit of remodeling and upgrading, additions, and so forth. The question was, what are some of the pitfalls? Do we go ahead and do that? And how do we assess if it's worth it?
Yeah. Well, when you're doing any additions and adding actual square footage, first, I mean, this is where a good local realtor partner comes into play, because anytime I'm going to do extensive remodel, I want to make sure I'm getting a minimum of a 1-to-1 return on my money. Right. If I'm going to put, $100,000 in, that property value better go up by $100,000. I'm not just doing it to make more money on my cash flow. Right. I need to make sure that
the appreciation, the equity, and so
exactly.
Forth.
So we're talking about two different things. Yeah. One, I've got to assess, okay, based on the work that I'm going to do, how much is that going to increase my cash flow, so I can underwrite what the revenue generated is going to be. But really, I want to know before I decide to do something like that is, if I'm dumping that much money into a property and it's a capital improvements, how much did that property go up in value? Yeah. And when you start adding square footage, a lot of times that adds value significantly to the property. Sometimes extensive remodels are a whole bunch of deferred maintenance, and you're not adding a lot of value to a property. Right. And so it's really identifying, one, financially, does it make sense to go down that road and run down that road? That's the first place I would start. Second place I would start in, if I'm considering something like that, especially if it's a property I haven't bought yet, is, do I have good partners there? Is there good opportunity for labor and contractors and everything else if I'm not there and I need to be able to hire somebody? Because the numbers might look great, but it's in a remote location, and you buy the property, you can't find anybody to do the work, right? And so you have to make sure that the resources of labor, material, the time that you have, the money that you have to put in, all of that's actually available after you've run down the road and said, yeah, financially it makes sense, but sometimes logistically it doesn't make sense. And so you have to look at both of those before you dive into something like that.
Gotcha. Good. Okay. Refinancing. What do you think? Are we at a point where we want to refinance right now, or?
Yeah, I don't think yet. I think that we're still in that. I mean, obviously they haven't come down. Rates haven't come down a ton. Now we're having some hiccups in the economy. One thing about rates is rates drop when the economy struggles, right? There's an inverse relationship to rates and the economy. And so when the economy is really good, rates are going to go up, right? Rates have got to rise because you got inflation and everything else. When the economy drops, rates will drop. And so I said inverse, it really kind of follows, right? The economy. So if the economy is bad, they're gonna drop rates, try to spur the economy a little bit. If economy goes up, rates are going to go up. So we've had a really good, strong economy for a while. And we've had high inflation, and the consumer's been really resilient and spending a lot of money. And so right now we're seeing hiccups. Stock market's starting to come down. The tariffs are starting to get put on. And you're going to see a couple steps back, I think, before the net, what I believe is going to be a positive effect to the economy, but it could take a little while, and it could take a few quarters. If that happens, that gives the Fed a really good reason to drop rates. And so I think you got to watch it really closely, because we are seeing those turbulence in the economy, in the job market, and everything else that's going on. And those will have a positive impact on rates, a negative impact on the economy, but a positive impact on rates coming down. And depending on how much they decide to come down, will be dependent on how turbulent it actually gets. Right. And so right now, I think we're still in a wait and see mode.
Just kind of hold and kind of wait and see.
Yeah, but I think that potentially, second, third quarter or third or fourth quarter of the year, you might have enough of, because I think it's likely that all of these changes, I mean, you're talking about some major changes to what we're doing with tariffs and taxes and everything else. Those changes are going to take some time to take effect. Yeah. And it is going to be a little bit turbulent for a while. If that's the case, it will have an effect on the rates. Yeah.
Well, buddy, it's good call today, man. I love the podcast. I appreciate you giving some insights. We had a little fun with some of the stuff going on, and then really diving into some short-term rentals. So hopefully we were a benefit for those out here listening. And again, thanks for listening. So.
Absolutely, guys. We know how valuable your time is, and we appreciate you spending it with us. We know that you have a lot of things to do, and so our goal is to help you walk into this game with your eyes wide open. If you do have specific questions, please send those in to support@odyssey.com, and make sure that you put them on the whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Those things, we'll look at the comments and the DMs or whatever we get on those, and we'll make sure we put those on an upcoming episode to get those questions answered. And so if you also if you have somebody that likes this short-term rental game and you think that they would like to be a part of these conversations, share the show. Those things help us grow. If you have more than 30 seconds, like it or review it on whatever platform that is you watch or listen on. And the final, most important thing I ask you at the end of every episode, pick that one thing you can do today, start building that life you don't want to take vacation from. Cheers, my friends. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Vacation Rental Revolution podcast. Share this with other people you think need to hear about it. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Hey Grace, is there a website?
Yes! For more amazing content and expert advice, visit Vodyssey.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.